What's going on, traders? Hope everybody's having a great weekend. Wanted to come in here and do a weekly video update on where I see the E-mini S&P futures and the NASDAQ 100 and Q as well. We're going to also look at the economic calendar for this week, as well as some day trading levels and a few other data points that we like to look at here to help gain some analysis and some insight into potentially what we should be looking for next week. All right, before we get into anything, reminder, of course, that this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and in no way should be viewed as financial advice. All right, so with that being said, let's take a look at the economic calendar and see what we have in store. Of course, we are ending the month here of November, and we are getting into next month, the end of the year. Sorry about that. All right, so let's look at the calendar here. I didn't have it pulled up correctly. All right, so Monday the 2nd, we have ISM manufacturing at 10 o'clock. PMI there, manufacturing PMI at 9:45, where the market is open as well, so pay attention to those. Shouldn't be a huge market mover, but I'll just be aware. Job openings Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We have some Fed speak before the market opens here at 8:45. Final services PMI coming in at 9:45 while the market's open. ISM services, factory orders, and then we have beige book at 2 o'clock. So a little cluster of data there in the morning open, 9:45 to 10, and then beige book there at 2 o'clock. So initial jobless claims on the 5th of December coming in at 8:30, but really all eyes are going to be on Friday, December 6th. We get non-farm payroll coming in at 8:30, so that is definitely something we'll be paying attention to very closely, as the labor market really is the key to seeing what's really going to happen as far as that macro outlook as far as a recession or not. And consumer credit at 3 o'clock, and it looks like Goolsby speaking at 10:30, but really 8:30 is the show time that I'll be paying attention to the most on Friday there, the 6th. All right, so as I mentioned, we are coming out of November, coming into the end of the year, December, and we're going to take a look here at the monthly candle. What is this telling us? Well, huge move to the upside in the E-mini S&P futures, closing up right by the highs as well. So very bullish overall, and we are making, we made new all-time highs. Now we are just kind of in blue sky territory here on the markets. So we are still monitoring here on our overbought, oversold indicator. We are still very spicy up in here, and obviously it stayed that way for a extended amount of time. So you can't obviously just depend on this completely, but eventually the tide will turn. So, and we are on a bigger time frame here, so usually this gives us a bigger move overall. When might that happen? Well, that's anybody's guess. I'm thinking possibly at the start of the new year we start to see a little bit of a change overall, but we will see how that plays out. As it stands, I think we were talking about 6,100 on ES, and we hit already over that 60.50. It doesn't really actually seem unreasonable now at the end of the year to see anywhere from, I would say, 6,200, I think is possible. Maybe even 630, 620. Let's see here. Hold on, let me just look. Maybe about real close, I think, even to possibly 6,300. By the end of the year. Very, very possible if this continues. And from the monthly perspective, I'd really be looking for the monthly high of October, right? And we've also talked about that range theory as well, 25%, 50%, and it does not exactly 50%, but that monthly high of October there is, well, if you want to get it precise, it's going to be 57. No, what is the high there? 59.27 quarter. We can just call it 59.30 to be honest. And I'll just bring it a little bit down there because I'm at 35. 59.30. I mean, as long as we hold over this from the monthly perspective, I really don't see any cause for concern at all. So quite a ways that we could pull back and come in and just set us up for another move higher. So from the monthly view, I am not concerned there. Let's see what happens. Huge move here. Wouldn't really even surprise me that if we see a little bit of pullback in December. I remember 2018 December actually had a massive pullback, and then when everybody thought the Santa Claus rally quote unquote was over, it was then in January that we started to rip up once again. Now of course this is a different environment from that time, but it's just something to keep in mind, right? And we've already had a huge move here. The lows of the month down by the 57.28, 50. No, what is the actual low? 57.15 thereabouts, all the way up. So I mean 300 points, maybe if not more, on a single monthly candle. So big move here, and it's kind of almost a. It wasn't really a bull flag or a 3-bar, but it went 1, 2, and then just boom, or maybe it was. So either way, we closed up by the highs, extremely strong here overall. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that monthly level high. And if we break underneath from that monthly perspective, now of course we've got tons to go through on the daily and the weekly, but if we did break through, I would be looking. And we say we got a 2-week close underneath 59.30. Now, of course, we've got to contend with that 5900. But if that would happen, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to come back down into the 58.50, 58.35 area and possibly retest the high of the September session. Monthly candle. So I pay attention to that as well. But really the scenario A that I would really be thinking that's going to happen is either going to be consolidation within this range here, and then we potentially see the next move up higher, and then we come up and break back up into somewhere into this zone. I'm not exactly sure, but that would make sense to me. Now, watch out. We could consolidate. We could pull down. I mean, even from here, pulling down, I mean, that would be a nice pullback overall. So, I mean, overall, am I rushing into new longs? If I'm thinking about from the swing trade perspective, do I want to get into a new long? No, not really. I want to wait for a weekly or daily pullback here overall. So, let's get into the weekly chart and see what we can take away from that perspective as we start to break it down here. And there you can see a little bit more clear the high that we want to hold over. In the last 2 weeks did have some pushes down underneath, but we never really had any acceptance underneath, and we had pushed back up. So again, this to me, of course, just again looks more again like a type of a flag here setting up, trying to break out. One thing I will watch for though in this type of scenario here, as we do try to push up higher, right, if we come and we make this into somewhat of a balance range right here, just a little bit, and maybe it would, I mean, from the weekly perspective, it probably would be, a bit heavier. But if we do push up above, and we kind of already did, and then fail back underneath, let's say that would be a scenario that I will continue to watch out for, maybe in a weekly. Obviously we're on the weekly chart here, so that can happen of course on the weekly. Or if we come up and do something like this, right, we get the next week's candle like this. Let me do my best to draw it. Right, and we close in this part of the candle, the lower part of the range, falling beneath the swing high of the week of the 11th, right, and the 4th, right, then again we could consider these trapped longs, trapped inventory, and we would look for sells to come back down, probably to the weekly high of the 18th. That wouldn't surprise me if we do fail below, coming back down a little bit underneath 6,000. We could possibly just stop right there. The market is very strong, but maybe 59.90 area, maybe 95. That could be a potentiality. But if that breaks, it wouldn't surprise me to come back down and come lower back towards these weekly October 14th highs and the 22nd highs. And we had talked about that before in the previous videos, kind of about this area right here being that balance high that needed to hold for us to continue up higher from that weekly perspective. And you can see again, as we already went over, we made a few attempts to break down, but the bulls really ultimately again are just very, very strong, and they had come in and supported right here, right, that opening, the weekly opening right here, and we obviously had bounced right back up, right? You can make a little demand zone right here, and we found a bid, and boom, 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 boom. But I want to watch out here for that look above and fail potentiality over these highs. If we start failing back below, that would be an interesting setup for me on the weekly time frame. So I will definitely be paying attention to that. All right, let's pull up the one of the other charts here that we have been working with over the last couple of videos that we have, so we just have some context, of course, if we go back and take a look at those videos versus these as well. So it's always good to kind of see where we're at and how any levels kind of reacted. Well, we are in that blue sky territory, as we already kind of mentioned, and really from this view here, and I believe this 60-36, we can call it 60-40 probably, was from a daily chart. But why don't we do this now? Pull this up a little bit to the high of the week of the 4th. And then I'm going to go right here to that open, that body. So that's 60-42 to 60-31. Whoops. And I want to see if the bulls in fact can hold over this. I think if they can hold over this, we closed at 60-51 half. So as long as we really hold over 60-30, I'm not really having too much of an issue for the short side. But again here, if we do look up and fail back underneath, come back up, well, it's going to be a cherry short setup for me, and I'll be paying attention to that closely. Again, things will start to get interesting from the weekly perspective. We start breaking under the highs of the week of the 18th. Well, then we can look for more sells again for this to continue. Maybe we come back up and probably come back down into the 59.50s, 59.30 area would be reasonable to me. And again, these are the highs that we really need to hold. We were talking about that earlier as far as that previous balance area breakout that we were looking at the other chart. So that would make sense if we came down right into this area. Really, what would be happening? I mean, technically, we would be falling kind of in a balance zone because we would be back trading within this new particular balance. But either way, from the overall trend perspective, I mean, it's sloppy, but whoops, oh shoot, sorry, it's sloppy, but you could even say it's a weekly higher low. Why am I on this? Come into here, retest. And then we'll see. Of course, obviously, ideally, this is what, you'd be looking for and for the trend continuation. But we also, of course, could have, this scenario where it comes up. Maybe we find resistance here. I don't know. Maybe then we double bottom and come up here and then double top, and then we finally break through. I mean, there's a million schematics that we could draw up, but we have to consider, multiple variables. But ideally, obviously, we just get the slingshot right into the new highs. But it could reject. Who knows, right? All right, we got one more chart that we've been working on overall. Let's get into the daily now. And kind of see how everything looks after the short week of trading. And I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Time away from the markets. And ready to, think about what's important to you. And what's important to me right now is making this smaller. It is getting annoying. Alright, I'm giving up on that for now. Alright, so here on the daily, very similar thing. We want to look at this daily candle here. Ideally, this is as shallow from the daily perspective as you want to get. We break under, then we have that issue that we were talking about, and this turns into overhead supply. Overhead supply, all up in here. Right? So those are our two scenarios on the daily. Alright, let's take a look at the other chart really quickly. Nothing really too much to go over here. We had one other we'd kind of been watching. Alright, same story. Nice. Caught the lows here on the open of the week. Right at the 26th. I think that was Monday. Boom. Nice catch there. Alright. That's everything I wanted to go over from the daily chart perspective. The day trading levels, I have to say, unless you want to use the extensions, I'm going to be waiting for more data. We're in uncharted territory. And yeah, I can use the extensions, but I'd rather price action just be built up and I get a little sense of what's going on from that. From the hourly view, well, we're not completely overbought. You know, we came in, tagged that 660, fell back below. So I'm going to say, from the day trading perspective, that really we need to see back over that 60-53, but I don't like that number. I just like to go with the whole number. So we're going to say 60-55. Need to see back over 60-55 here. Like so. Build up, and then we can look for, right, of course we just got to take out the 660 right there. Right, that's what I would look to see. It's still, you can still make the argument, of course, that this is type of a flag setup here. But again, this pushing up above and then falling makes me a little cautious for some overhead trapped inventory, and that we could look more towards that short side and some type of a move down. Now, where could we go? Well, we do have the hourly highs here from 9 o'clock all the way down. What is this? It's not too far away, to be honest with you. I mean, that's pretty much where we stopped on the hourly candle, right? I mean, it's pretty close. But we have 60.47 right there, and then 60.44. So I think 47, 44, and then ultimately I think real close to that 60.40. But I just have to call out that this area right here, you can potentially find some support levels here before we actually right, something like that. But I will say, if we do take out this area right here, It's at 9 o'clock on, I think that's Thursday. 9 o'clock at night. So breaking pretty much the 10 o'clock high from the Friday short session, which is 60.45. Under 60.45, I think things can get interesting. Down about 5 more points underneath that 60.40. Then we'll probably look to trade. We have another type of a little balance range there, so I would be very mindful as we came into the highs from about 12 o'clock on the Friday session. And that's around 60.35. I think if we break under that, we'll make the full traverse down to 60.25 though. So a couple of spots where we could stop along the way, but ultimately under 60.40 and looking to get back down towards the 60.30, 60.25 area. Just have to watch these highs here. So I pay attention to these highs right here, right around 5 in the 6.35 zone and the 6.45 zone, 60.45. Okay, so, and as far as the bulls, yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, we just hold up over 60.55, and then probably we take out that high, wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we go to 60.70, 60.75? Right, it would just keep on trucking. So, all right, let's move it along here and get into NQ, the NASDAQ. See what we can take away from that monthly chart. Okay. Let's get on a blank one. Oh. Sorry. All right. Okay. So here we are on NASDAQ. What am I looking at from the monthly view? Well, we broke up, made a new all-time high briefly. And I'm going to be watching here. We closed just on it, the monthly high of July. I think that's going to be important. And we basically, as I said before, we closed right on it, right around 20,008 or 20,983. We'll call it 985 right there. And I believe we were talking about that level as well in the last couple of videos as being a zone we want to pay attention to. Just pretty much right below, right on that. This is a little too high. It's 83. Okay, I'm just gonna do it manually here. There we go. And it also matches up with the monthly highs of October, right? And we were talking about that for ES as well. The monthly highs of the previous month. And we're going to also put in an area right there as well. So really, oh, and that's not even, the highs of October was 20,788. Okay, pretty close. So, And we closed right pretty much in this zone. We didn't close up towards the highs, and we've talked about that divergence in ES. ES closed a little bit more towards the highs here, and this is a little bit concerning for me on the monthly time frame here. This wick, this manipulation, now people have been trapped in this zone. So I'm going to be paying very close attention to see what happens if we start to form some weekly candles, say like this, or above. Basically, we got to stay above 21,000, I would have to say. We need to see some weekly closes above 21,000 for me to feel a little bit more comfortable, and then we can come and try to work through this overhead supply here that has been created. But if we stay below kind of where we closed at 20,999.1. So I mean, it's basically right on. I mean, 10 points is nothing for NQ, so basically it's right on 21,000. But if we keep on staying below and building up more inventory above of sellers that are trapped, that want, buyers that were trapped that want to get out, then I'm going to be expecting a little bit more downward pressure. And certainly, as I mentioned, if we break below that monthly low, 20,800, we start breaking below that, we start seeing some weekly candles close. Obviously, right now we're on the month, but we're not going to be talking about the, a monthly candle close certainly would be very interesting here, but we have to take it one step at a time. So a daily is not enough for me to speak from the ratio, the fractal to the monthly. So that's why I'm using the weekly here. So if I start to see two weeks, say, of of December closing underneath that 21,000, certainly underneath 20,800, well, then I will be looking for a little bit more downside overall in the market. And again, I wouldn't be surprised there if we just retested the highs from the monthly highs from September, just month to month, right back down to 20,550, 555, pretty much 550, yeah. So I would watch out for that as well, but it's a big if and or but if that actually does come to fruition there. So I'll be watching this very closely, what happens in December. As long, really, though, I mean, even those pullbacks are technically fine. We could just pull in here, and we're not really breaking the lows of the last month. So from that monthly view, that really can just set us up as a candle, just like October here, or even July. July was a little bit sloppier, but something like that where we just pull in and then make a bigger push up. I believe we were still talking about it end of year potentiality. I think I said I might have mentioned 23,000 or 23,000, but I mean, maybe 22 might be might be it. I don't know if we can get to 25,000 this year. But from this view, I mean, maybe 23,000. Between 23,000, 23,500. I think 23,000 might be my top guess. But tough to call. Of course, again, if we start breaking underneath and hanging out down in this area, we'll start to reassess. But really, still, that's 50% of the range, pretty much, of the November candle. So even there, it's okay. We start breaking on the September lows, then we can have another conversation. The September highs, monthly highs, then we can have another conversation. And likely start to trade back up into this area. Right, closer to 20,250. That's what I'd be looking for. All right, let's go into the weekly chart here and see what we can take away from that view. See how our monthly levels here kind of match up on this perspective. And it matches up pretty nicely, right? You can see the highs here, and this is just pretty much all the area that the bulls really needed to hold, right? This was our prior balance right here that kind of broke out. We established a new balance in the zone here on this area here. All these wicks now have kind of become, before it was overhead, now it's found a bid and built itself up, and now you can see the highs here. It's all built up and we have held, right? We kind of came back in, same thing as ES. We came back a little bit into this balance zone, but really never even made it to 50% the way through. So there was no cause for real concern there. And of course the week did not close underneath it, popped back up, and we traded back up higher. So what do we need to see here from the weekly perspective? Well, again, I'm going to have to be cautious here with potential people inventory being trapped. Whoops, up in this area. Whoops, up in this zone here, as we did come back up, and you can see we did find some weekly resistance as we did trade up into this upper part here of the, and this is about that, just about 25%, right, of the last 2 weeks a high range. So right in this area here is a bit of supply as we've trapped when we failed back underneath. So anyone that's in this area here still long, as we're coming back up, drawn towards this liquidity, they're going, oh, I can get out for a little bit of less loss, selling into it, selling into it. So what do we need to watch out for potentially? I want to see if we actually start to kind of roll and do something like this. That would be interesting for me to see, and I'm going to try to zoom in here. Right, so I just want to be paying attention right here, and what I don't want to see, or if you're bullish you don't want to see, is this to kind of roll like this. You want to start to see, oh, I didn't mean to delete it all. You want to start to see, give me a weekly close back over again 21,000, and we're pretty much right on it, right? We're right on the line here. Show me a weekly candle like so, and I will feel a lot better about coming up a bit higher. And I wouldn't be surprised at that point if we came back up into about 21,220, maybe a little bit lower, 21,200. We start getting over that, then we can look about finishing up this last bit of supply here, and we can look to attack the highs once again up in 21,325, up to the swing high, the all-time highs at 340. Right, so that's what I would be looking for. All right, let's take a look now and bring this over to a daily chart. See what these levels look like on the daily. You can see here how we're kind of stuck, right? We keep on banging up against it, can't get over. Need to see some closes again over, and then we can come back up and attack. Oh, let me get the right thing, and then we can come back and up attack the highs there. Okay, let's pull up one of our other charts that we have been working with. Why can't I delete this? There it goes. Alright, so from this view, need to hold over 20,865. And I think we are good from that view. Even if we pull back, we can come back up into 21,000, about 21,150. And that's the area here we're going to have to contend with possibly getting over that. So if you are looking for a potential short, this is definitely a spot that could give you that opportunity. And then we could look for a potential long again. Maybe that time it breaks through. If not, if we do break under 20,865 or 860, can even say that. Well, then we'll look to trade back down towards the 21,600s. Right. All right. Let's go into another one of our charts that we were working with last time. Very similar situation. If you're bullish, need to start to see. Whoops. I need to start to see some candles like so. Then we can go ahead and make the push. So 20,000 from this view, 20,950 got a hold. And we closed about 40 points above that. So if we fail back under 20,945, I'm going to call it 950. If we start seeing some daily closes like so, we could then consider this potential trapped inventory, and we can look for sells to come back down 20,800. Break under 800. Well, then we could look down more towards the 700s, about 100 points lower, with some pit stops along the way, of course. So that's what I've got for NQ on the daily. All right, let's get into some of the day trading levels here. We have worked out. Okay. Still can make a case here. Same thing kind of on ES, just not, of course, by the highs. But you could say hourly flag. We've got a little bit more room. To me, it looks like it's really setting us up for a nice fake out. Again, here we pushed up above, failed back below. We're just right on the line. So it's just such a critical daily level. It's really tough to say to do anything right here from the hourly perspective. I mean, would I want a long here? No, I'd really want to see some candles closing up above this area right here. Then I can look for potential moves up higher. I mean, certainly, like I was mentioning before, we can make a case here for this being a potential type of a flag setting up as we come in here, consolidate, and then we make that rip up higher. That is a potentiality. But as it stands, I think if we really start breaking below these equal lows here, right around, I mean, it was pretty much matching 20,975. I think shorts can open up underneath that. Underneath 20,975, I think we could see some sells. Big moves up to the upside here. A lot of thin structure probably created. Not a lot of time traded. So I wouldn't be so surprised to see us being able to melt through some of this potentially stopping right around 20,930. That is an area I will be watching. But if we break underneath that, check out the hourly lows from the open, what it looks like from on Friday, coming down around 20,900. That wouldn't surprise me. Underneath, that's only 30 points under. So underneath 29,030, back down to the figure. Underneath that, wouldn't be hard to chew through it. Watch out though, we could find some support, and I think we could come back down to the hourly high here of 8 o'clock on Friday. So it also is the matching low from 2 o'clock right there. So I would watch as a very likely target overall. If we do break underneath 20,900, I'm going to call out for 20,000, around 20,865. I think that could be a good area that we would come down into and potentially find a bid there. Again, as I mentioned before, for the bulls, I got to see over 21,000. Such a critical daily level. It's really got to hold for at least 30 minutes, and I get a little bit more interested. Yes, of course, we've got that. We've got that potential bull flag, but I still want to be cautious right here. Getting a little bit close to overbought, not completely, but it just seems to me that this setting up for something where we rally a little bit in the Globex on Sunday, and then we possibly do a fake out breakout early 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock on Monday, and then fail back below. Very similar to what we got maybe 2 weeks ago. So I'll be very cognizant of that as well, because by the time we come into RTH, this will be overbought. We pop up a little bit, and then we see a sell back down, and this readjusts and come back, reverts to the mean. So I would watch out for that. That being said, over 21,000, I'm going to be looking for about 50 points higher, 21,150, and if we really start to find a acceptance over that, then I'll be looking for 21,100, and then basically another 50 points up, 21,150. So that's what I would be looking for. If you don't want to do anything right here, I don't blame you. Wait for some acceptance, a higher high to be put up, this to come up right here, be retested about 21,050, and then from there you could look for a long, potentially up another 100 points or so. So of course with pit stops along the way, taking partials 21,100 of course at the figure, and as you see fit along the way, but the ultimate target would be reaching for that 21,050, 150. So we'll see what happens. All right, well, we've got a bull case here, we've got a bear case for both of the indices. Let's take a look at the dollar, some of our other data points we like to look at, and see what we can take away from those. Let's start off with TLT here, as we've been talking about a bounce on TLT for a while, and it's been tough. It was tough going. Every time I thought it was going to come in and make a lower, higher low or lower high, it never really was sustained the move. But now we actually have some follow through overall. I'm going to jump over to a weekly chart, make this a little bit smoother for us. Okay, so we were talking about that 92 level being really important, and now we've got a weekly close over it, closing up towards the highs. Okay, that doesn't, to me, that more, is definitely a sign of strength, but it'd be more likely that we would see some type of a pullback. Let's watch again the 50% retracement, 25% retracement here. It wouldn't surprise me to see a 50%, to be honest. Maybe coming back closer to 93 even, and then from there making a move back up into about 95, 94.70, 94.75, very possible. Big area there. Look at the weekly highs from June 6th. So that's what I'll be paying attention to, the weekly highs from the 25th of March as well. So could be a double top, a triple top type of scenario there, but all's well, everything being equal, holding over 92, and my next projected target there would be around that 95, 94, 70, 75 zone. So that is what I'll be looking for. And of course, as this is going up, we'll take a look at the TNX, the yields, probably coming back down higher, or excuse me, back down lower. Now finally breaking below a key area I saw. We were talking about the 43 being essential the two breaking for more downside here in the yields. And we really got that. 43.50 gave up, and then the 43 gave up, and it was over from there. We can see here this kind of hung out by the highs, looked above, failed a bunch, kind of distributed, and then we got the clean break, and it was just down from there. So really here now definitely have to look at this as overhead supply, and even if we do get some type of a resurgence in the yields coming back up into that 43 or even that 43 half 64, it wouldn't surprise me. Then we would look to make a new low, and this would bring up bonds higher. Of course, we'd look to match the lows back down towards 42 and then lower. But really from the daily, I mean, as long as it holds under 42, we could even look for maybe a little bit bounce and then coming back down to basically 41. That would be the most bearish type of scenario overall. But as long as stay under 42, 42.25, I think that's still open for discussion to see the yields down by 41. So I think we have one more chart we're going to pull up. I'm going to monitor here on the daily, though. We're not quite oversold yet, but I am going to watch that closely. And here's that 43 breaking down, and we also kind of broke this little balance right here. We're kind of towards the low, so I'm gonna watch this. I wouldn't be surprised to see the TNX here bounce a little bit right on the line there. So I would watch. I think the TNX, their yields can bounce a little bit, but then probably just end up continuing lower. Again, staying under 43, good sign, great sign for this to peel off. But we might be getting close. I don't know how much more downside we got here. We're going to have to see. Let's look at the dollar. Okay. Now this is pretty interesting. We've talked about this balance range we've been trading in. And look at that. Boom. Broke over it. Fell back underneath. Well, this is an extremely bearish event. Oh, come on now. What? Oh, 25. This is extremely bearish. And, you know, this is interesting. Because this is telling me, people are getting a little bit more, I guess, inflation. They're not getting as scared about it as much. The chart says so. But I still would be a little bit worried, personally, about it resurging because it's kind of flatlined. But this chart's saying that the market is starting to be a little bit less concerned about it. And as long as we stay now under this basically 106.75, 106.70, yeah, 106.75, 106, we can even say really, as long as we stay under 107.45. But ideally, 106.65. You could be short the dollar, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it come down to first stop 103.80, 104 maybe. Very likely, in my opinion. I wouldn't necessarily chase it here. You could also look for this. Boom, if any of you guys trade the Forex and all that, I think 104 is a reasonable target for the dollar. Now. And I think that's all I need to say about that. Okay. Let's take a look at the VIX. Oh! Well, 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 well. Okay, well, put call ratio. Oh boy. Okay, VIX. We're underneath 15. We're underneath 1575. Oh man, you know, if the VIX was down by 13 or down by this 12, oh my gosh, I would be shorting the market till there was no tomorrow. Look at the put call ratio finally giving us a contrarian signal here. Look at this. This is interesting. We are way off sides, and this is saying, I mean, it's basically saying it could be time to get in short soon. Definitely out of bounds here. I wouldn't be surprised to see if this was down a little bit lower. I would have a double contrarian signal, but definitely something here on the put call ratio. Very interesting. VIX not overbought, you oversold yet. Let's see if it gets a little closer to 13. Towards that 1275. I'll start to get interested in something like that and seeing a nice downside move in the market. All right, so first bearish data point here with the put call ratio. What's the yield? Let's look at the yield curve here. Pretty much going sideways, nothing. The one-day volatility, no, it could come a little bit lower, and I'd be looking contrarian. Not quite there yet. Let me see another day down here, and I would expect some volatility to kick back in. Let's keep an eye on that. Not quite there. How many stocks are trading in the SPX? S&P 500 ES over their 50-period moving average up top, 200 down on the bottom. Looking strong here, came into that 50%. We were getting a little bit nervous, came back in, held 50%, boosted back up towards the highs, broke over this little downtrend. Let's see if this gets up. If we see VIX down by that 1275, 13, and we see the SPX AR, the A50R up by 75, 74, that would be an interesting contrarian signal for a potential short. Come up here, and then we see this roll. Not quite there yet. I'll be watching. The 200's just been out of balance forever. Not really too much to... Nothing really going on here. New highs versus new lows. Okay, we came back up into that high reading, came back down, leveled off over zero. Nothing really too crazy. See if it stays under 190. Still see readings under 190. This could come back down towards the zero. Very, very possible. Let's look at the junk bonds. What are they telling us? They are saying bullish. Breaking above this area here. This is saying bullish. Watch to see if these come back into about 80, 79, 82. And rally back up towards the highs at 88.35 on the HYZ. This is, again, a bullish activity in the junk bonds. VIX futures, new contract. Oof, deep contango. No issues here. Contango, no issues here. Looking good on the volatility. The VVIX underneath 100. We're not quite in the zone. I'm going to watch. We're at 86.32. Give me an 80. Give me an 80, and it's, again, that'll be start to get that contrarian. I want to get short market. Not quite there yet. Let's look at the... Nope, that's not what I wanted. Oh, God, this is going to fuck this up. Okay, this is a good sign. 7-year bond moving up, breaking over the downtrend, and we have the ratio starting to break underneath the 50. Want to see this stay below 1.0, basically 1.02. Watch for this. And that would mean bonds keep moving up. Boom, this would keep going up. So that this is basically inverse. Right, that would be the most bullish scenario there. We would see the rates, the yields roll off if this was the case. This would be more downside in the yields. Oh, the dollar. Here's another view of the dollar. Here's the look above. Failed. Broke underneath here. You could see the 106.87 failed. Okay, so from this 4-hour view, well, we're at a little support here. We were talking about this area, the 105.75 zone. Oh, so we could get a little bounce potentially on the dollar, and then maybe we come down, match these lows. I'm not sure. But as it stands, we stay underneath 106.40 and then break underneath 105.75, 105.45, and then basically 105 would be my next target. Downside for the dollar, and then ultimately we talked about that bigger target down at the 104 area. What's going on in transports and the Dow? Dow at all-time highs, looking good. No real issues here. I am gonna watch. The Dow would need to hold. Okay, as long as the Dow holds 44,370, I have no issue. If we start to break under that, watch for the gap to fill down to the high of the 22nd of November. But that being said, as long as it holds 44,480 all the way down to 44,370, no issue for me. Can break, but if it breaks underneath, watch for that gap fill, and then we'll start to tear through some of this some of this bullish activity. Wouldn't be surprising to see if we really started getting a sell for it to be easy for something like this to happen. Coming back down to the highs basically of November 6th, back down towards underneath 4,400. I would say 43,675, 680 could be possible. Something like that. Transport still look good. No issue here. As long as they hold 17,500. Under 17,500, watch for some downside on transports. But everything's in lockstep there. No divergence. Okay, I think that's everything we wanted to go over. Perfect. All right, guys. Well, again, I hope that everybody had a great Thanksgiving, family, friends, and being around loved ones. And thank you so much for joining me on the video, giving time to prep with the markets with me. Really appreciate the support. If this is your first time with the channel, it would mean a ton to me if you subscribe to the channel, turn on that notification bell. Let me know what you guys think. You think a pullback's coming soon? Would love to hear what you guys think about the markets in general. Where do we hit up higher? Do we hit 25,000 on NQ? Do we not? Let me know your targets till the end of the year. I would love to hear them. I read all the comments, of course. And besides that, remember, this is the start to the new month, so let's start it off on the right foot. Let's trade our plan and plan our trades. A prepared trader is a profitable trader. So thanks again for doing the homework with me, coming in, looking at some levels. I hope it helps. I hope you learned something. And let's see what we can get next week. I'll see you guys out on the internet. I love you all, and I hope you have a great Sunday and rest of the weekend. Okay? Take care.